Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Deuteronomy, the 32nd chapter. And this goes into the song of Moses, right? The song where the Lord told Moses to write down and teach it to the children of Israel. And this is a pretty prophetic song. You know, it covers a lot of different parts in there, right? Parts in there being symbolic and metaphorical, right? Because it's still a song. Okay, but let's get into it. So it says here, "Give ear, O ye heavens, and I will speak, and hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. My doctrine shall drop as the rain, my speech shall distill as the dew, as the small rain upon the tender herb, and as the showers upon the grass." Now, I'm also going to pull this up in the NLT as well, right? It says here, "Let my teaching fall on you like rain, let my speech settle like dew," meaning let it nourish you, okay? Because that's what rain does. It says, "Let my words fall like rain on tender grass, like gentle showers on your young plants." Because and here obviously Israel would represent the grass and the plants, right? And the doctrine and the speech will represent the words of the Lord. Because I will publish the name of the Lord, right? I'm going to make, when you publish, you make something public, right? You make it known, you glorify it, you make it, you put it out there, right? So I will publish the name of the Lord, ascribe ye greatness unto our God. Okay, and NLT again, "I will proclaim the name of the Lord, how glorious is our God. He is the rock." And the rock here, you'll notice in reference to the Lord, it's in the rock starts with a capital R. And it's another way of saying like he is our God, but the term like rock is used for like refuge, right? Or protection, right? So he is our rock, our covering. His work is perfect, and all his ways are judgment. And when you go into that word judgment, one of the definitions there is where is it at here? Proper, right? Fitting, so all justice, right, is righteous. Okay, so all the ways of the Lord, as it says here, are righteous, right? They're proper. A God of truth and without iniquity, just and right is he. Remember, this is a song about Israel, okay? "They have corrupted themselves. Their spot is not the spot of his children." Okay, basically their spot, their the covering, right? The way they behave, the way they're moving is not like those, or it's not conducive to those of the children of God. They are a perverse and crooked generation. And that perverse is like a corrupt, okay, and crooked generation. "Do ye requite the Lord, or do ye thus requite the Lord, O foolish people and unwise?" Is this how you repay the Lord, O foolish people? "Is not he thy father that hath bought thee? Hath he not made thee and established thee?" Right, because he is the one who bought us. He mentions it all the time, right? In terms of redeeming us from Egypt, from being slaves, right? For making us, he established us. "Remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will shew thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee. When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel." Okay, and when he divided to the nations their inheritance being their allotted portions, right, their lands and so on. And when he separated the sons of Adam, as it says here, he set the bounds, okay, the boundaries of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. Okay, so it was the division of the inheritance, the land, and the nations was based okay, upon Israel. All right, now it doesn't expound exactly into like, was it because there were 12 sons, you had the 12 this or 12 that, but we know that when the Lord was setting up this division here, he did it with his future chosen nation Israel in mind. Okay, and hence he ended up giving us, right, even the best portion, right, in his divisions, being that region that we got. Okay, but it was all centered around Israel because we are the Lord's chosen people. For the Lord's portion is his people. See? So of all the different nations, we are his. He chose us. We are the portion that belongs to the Lord. Jacob, which represents Israel, is the lot of his inheritance. So we are the Lord's inheritance. Okay, we are his portion. That's why he is our God and we are his people. He found him in a desert land and in the waste, howling wilderness. He led him about. He instructed him, right? So the Lord found us in a destitute state, okay, a state of lacking, and he took us, he led us, he instructed us. As it says, he kept him as the apple of his eye. He trained us up, he guarded us, he provided for us, he nurtured us. As an eagle stirreth up her nest, right, and her nest is really her chicks, okay, fluttereth over her young, which is to like hover. Imagine like an actual eagle, hovering around its nest. Spreadeth abroad her wings, taketh them, and beareth them on her wings, basically to carry her young on her. So the Lord alone did lead him, being Israel, and there was no strange God with him. So as an eagle carries her young, the Lord bore us, okay, and carried us and nurtured us alone, right? No other gods, no nothing. It was just the Lord, all right, who took care of us. He made him ride on the high places of the earth, that he might eat the increase of the fields. Okay, and this is going into how the Lord blessed us, right, to give us the best, right, the best of everything. So as it says, to eat the increase of the fields, that is of the high places, the best places, right? He made him to suck honey out of the rock and oil out of the flinty rock, which is symbolizing the miraculous ways in which the Lord provided for us. Because oil doesn't come out of a rock, right? Neither does honey. All right, but that's just to symbolize the miraculous ways how the Lord took care of us and provided for us. Butter of kine, which is going into that butter is from coagulated milk of the kine or the cattle, and milk of sheep, with fat of lambs and rams of the breed of Bashan. Now, the Bashan is, when you look on the map, I believe that was a part of the territory of the half tribe of Manasseh. But the cattle and sheep and so on from there are very well fed, very rich, very nourished, because that region has very good pastures. Is good for cattle and sheep and so on. And that's one of the reasons why those tribes, right, Reuben, Gad, they requested to have their inheritance on that side of Jordan, because they had a lot of cattle. And they saw that it was a good place for their cattle. So they requested it. So here, the breed of Bashan, meaning like the top notch, okay, top quality, well fed. And goats with the fat of kidneys of wheat. And the fat of kidneys of wheat is another way of saying the choicest, right? The best of wheat. And thou didst drink the pure blood of the grapes, that is a top quality wine. So this is symbolizing how the Lord gave us everything. He gave us the best. But Jeshurun, which is another name for Israel, waxed fat and kicked, meaning Israel basically, after getting everything, they became, high-minded. They became comfortable. They got beside themselves and they kicked. They rebelled. When you go into that word kicked, it goes into that, to rebel. Now, in the literal sense, when an animal, right, when a cattle or ox, see if I can find that, kick, wax, fat, no, it should be, there you go. When you're plowing with it or driving it and it refuses to go, sometimes you would prick it, right, with a goad, or you would whip it, and sometimes they would kick back, okay, as a sign of like, rebelling against you trying to get them to go in a certain way. And that's what Israel ended up doing. Bit the hand that fed him. Okay, it says here to despise. In the Hebrew Chaldee lexicon, it says it says here, metaphor, to contemn, to neglect, to kick backward, applied to the contumacy of men against God. Okay, so that's going into that rebellion. It says here, thou art waxen fat, thou art grown thick, thou art covered with fatness. So imagine like if Israel was like a sheep or ox or something like that, and having been fed so well, you've become very well nourished. That's that fat. Okay, covered with fatness. So like you're good, you're really nourished. And so the Lord gave us everything. We got to that point, and as it says, then he forsook God which made him, and lightly esteemed the rock of his salvation. Right, he took the Lord for nothing. They provoked him to jealousy with strange gods, that's these idols. With abominations provoked they him to anger. They sacrificed unto devils. And when you go into that word devils, it's demon, shad in the Hebrew. Okay, not to God, because that's what these idols are anyway. And so instead of worshiping the one who gave them everything, they got everything, and then they decided to go and worship idols. And it provoked the Lord. It pissed him off. Right? It says, not to God, to gods whom they knew not. All those gods, they were gods of the heathens that were in the land that we came to meet. Right? To new gods that came up newly, because the Most High was always there. These are some new gods whom your fathers feared not. Right? Meaning our fathers didn't, serve these gods. These weren't our gods. We didn't revere them. But Israel, through disobedience, having come into the land, that's where they went. Of the rock that begat thee, thou art unmindful. So concerning the Most High, your God, the actual God that begot you, your father, him you're unmindful. He's out of your mind. He's not even in your thoughts. And has forsaken the God that formed thee. And when the Lord saw it, he abhorred them. So he detested them for that. Because of the provoking of his sons and of his daughters. Because what? They provoked him to anger. His sons and his daughters being Israel. And he said, I will hide my face from them. So I will withdraw my presence from them. I will see what their end shall be. So let's see what happens to them. Since they want to go and worship these idols. For they are a very froward generation, which goes into perverse, right? Corrupt. Children in whom is no faith. They have moved me to jealousy with that which is not God. They have provoked me to anger with their vanities. How? Because the worship that should be attributed to your God, you're giving it to an idol that is not God. And that has made the Lord jealous because that belongs to him, but you're giving it to an idol. It says here, so the Lord says, so, and I will move them to jealousy with those which are not a people. I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation. And the way the Lord ended up doing this, it's like to get back at Israel, was through the process of, one main example being Hellenization, right? Throughout, eventually in the future, under the reign of the Greeks, the Lord had a lot of Israel fall away from who they were as Israelites and lose that nation, that heritage and knowledge of it. And they became a no people because they lost the customs and the knowledge of who they were. And they started to live like Gentiles or like heathens, but they were Israelites. And that's why they were likened here. They are the foolish nation here. Okay, because they were without the knowledge of who they were. And so how did the Lord, so he says, you move me to jealousy because I'm your God, but you went and worshiped a different idol. You went a different God, right? You went and worshiped an idol instead of me to make me jealous. So now I'm going to make you jealous by giving my salvation, my glory, my godly traits, and benevolence to a people that are no people to provoke you, to make you jealous. So you're going to be like, why are they getting what belongs to us? Just like the Lord was like, why are you giving that idol what belongs to me? Okay. And truly the Lord did do that. Let's cross-reference this verse here. And you'll see, I believe this is in Romans. Let's see. Sure, let's take a look here. Romans 11, right? Romans 11 and 11. You can go through it. Brothers have done breakdowns on the whole thing, but I'm just going to deal with Romans 11 and 11 just to get to the point. So it says here, I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? This is dealing with the circumcision, those that knew they were Israelites, right? And they stumbled at what? At Yahushai, right? At salvation in not receiving it. So Paul is saying, was that stumbling so that they should fall, so that they should just be completely gone? No, right? God forbid. But rather, through their fall, by rejecting the Lord, by rejecting that gospel and that salvation is come on to the Gentiles. So the Lord opened it onto the Gentiles. These Gentiles are Israelites. Another name for them would be the no people or the foolish nation. And the Lord did that, right, by bringing salvation to them to provoke, right, to provoke them to jealousy. Who? The circumcision, those that knew they were Israelites. Okay, this is how the Lord provoked Israel to jealousy by them that are no people. Okay, because they provoked him to jealousy by worshiping idols that are no gods. And there's a lot more, like, you can go, a lot deeper into that whole history, right? It's a whole lesson in itself, leading up to the whole, mystery of the Gentiles and so on and so forth. But I'll leave it at that over here, so we can get through the chapter. Verse 22, for a fire is kindled in mine anger and shall burn into the lowest hell. And the Lord is describing here, he's so angry. Okay, he, as it says, his anger is so hot it burns into the lowest hell. Now the word hell here is shawal, which is a grave, meaning it burns down into the ground. Okay, and that's emphasizing the magnitude of the wrath of the Lord, or the anger of the Lord. And shall consume the earth with her increase. The earth here is the land, with her increase, with that which grows on it, and set fire on the foundations of the mountains, which is the land in which it is on top of. I will heap mischiefs upon them, which is like calamity, right? Troubles upon them. I will spend mine arrows upon them. Now, I'd say verses 23 to about 25. Okay. Verses 23 to about 25. In context, this is dealing with Israel, right? Judgment, the Lord's anger and judgment upon Israel. All right, in context. But when taken, when taken out of context, you can apply this to judgment upon or future judgment upon Babylon or upon Esau, or let's just say the future judgment, because the future judgment primarily or mainly would come upon Babylon and against Esau, but you're still going to have like some heathens and wicked Israelites get caught up in that as well. Okay, so let's look at this first on the the contextual level. when the Lord is applying it to Israel, it's symbolizing the calamities or the wrath of the Lord that is going to come upon them. Okay, so when he says here, I will heap mischiefs upon them, I will spend my arrows upon them, meaning he's going to bring calamity and judgments upon them. Okay, they shall be burnt with hunger and devoured with burning heat and with bitter destruction. And once again, when applying to, right, contextually to Israel, this symbolized the various forms of judgments and plagues the Lord brought upon us, okay, for our disobedience to him. I will also send the teeth of beasts upon them, which are wild animals, with the poison of serpents of the dust, right? Once again, plagues and wild animals and judgments. The sword without, which would be like adversaries, foreign nations, and terror within. So you got danger on the outside, and within, wherever you may go to hide, right, or within your cities, would be terror in forms of plagues, famines, whatever the Lord will send. Shall destroy both the young man and the virgin, the suckling also with the man of gray hairs. So the judgment would come upon all of us, regardless of age. Okay, now dealing with these verses again, right, in application more in, say, in a prophetic sense, right, applying it to now, Those arrows will represent the missiles. Okay, and it's also going to bring judgment. Okay, but this in that sense, right? Because you can tie this spiritually to a lot of other precepts, right? Where the Lord describes the weapons of his indignation. He describes different, arrows as he showed it to different prophets, and they wrote it down as such. Okay, because in this time the Lord is going to bring mischief as well, and the them here would be all those destined for judgment, primarily starting with Esau or his kingdom. Okay, I will spend mine arrows upon them, which are the weapons of the Lord's indignation, which are the missiles. They shall be burnt with hunger and devoured with burning heat that would come from that fire. Okay, from the missile. So, like I said, you can use these verses in let's say in tying into the judgment to come in this time, but it's important to also qualify, right? Give the understanding of the context in which it was first set in. Okay, but as it says here, and be devoured with burning heat and with bitter destruction, and that's what's going to happen to this place. Okay, saving for the elect, right, and those that the Lord is destined not to be destroyed by this form. I will also send the teeth of wild beasts upon them, and the poison of serpents of the dust. Right, it says it in Jeremiah or Isaiah 65. I believe it's Isaiah 65. Either that or actually Sirach 39, and I believe it's 28 or 29 on down. The teeth of wild beasts punishing the wicked unto destruction. Right, roughly paraphrasing. So that's also a form of judgment that the Lord is going to bring, because he uses animals as judgment as well. The sword without and terror within shall destroy both the young man and the virgin, the suckling also with the man of gray hairs. So similar to Ezekiel 9 and 5, which at the time was applying to wicked Israelites, but is also, when taken out of that historical context, going to be applied to how the Lord is going to bring judgment, age exclusive and gender agnostic now. Similarly, as we're reading here in verse 25, the terror, the sword, the destruction is going to come upon everybody destined for judgment, regardless of your age, regardless of your gender, right? You're all going to get judged. Verse 26, I said I would scatter them. Now, continuing, right? And this is what the Lord said concerning Israel, right? I said I would scatter them into corners. That's in Deuteronomy 28 as part of the curses. I would make the remembrance of them to cease from among men, right? So the Lord said, I had determined to scatter them into all the earth, to completely, remove them, right, from among men, that they wouldn't be remembered. And to a degree, the Lord did this, but he did not make a full end of us. Okay, but to a point where for a period of time, the remembrance of us being Israelites ceased from among men, but the Lord gave it back to us. Okay, but the reason he didn't fully do this, verse 27, was, as he says, were it not that I feared the wrath of the enemy, lest their adversaries should behave themselves strangely. So the Lord is saying here, if it wasn't for the fact that I feared the wrath of the enemy. Now, the word feared here is not to be understood in the sense that the Lord was afraid of the adversaries of Israel, but that he just did not want, he did not prefer, he didn't want that to be the case, right? So were it not for the fact that the Lord didn't want the enemies, okay, or the wrath of the enemies of Israel, their adversaries, to behave themselves strangely in a proud sense, to basically say, these people were scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. They were made to cease from the earth by our hands because we are so mighty, and not because the Lord is the one who did it to them. So I'll read the whole verse, right? It says, were it not that I feared the wrath of the enemy, lest their adversaries should behave themselves strangely, and lest they should say, our hand is high, and the Lord hath not done all this. See? So for that reason, he said, no, I ain't gonna, fully make them to cease. And it's kind of like how the Lord wanted to destroy Israel in the wilderness, but he didn't. For the sake that like Moses said, right? They're going to say, oh, you weren't able to deliver them, so you just brought them to the wilderness to destroy them. For they are a nation void of counsel, neither is there any understanding in them. Bunch of airheads. Oh, that they were wise, that they understood this, that they would consider their latter end. So if only they actually stopped and considered, and made proper, wise decisions and just followed the instructions of the Lord, knowing that in the end it would be better for them than if they disobey the Lord. How should one chase 1,000 and two put 10,000 to flight, except their rock had sold them and the Lord had shut them up? So basically, how is it that one of the enemies can chase 1,000 of Israel, right? Or two put 10,000 to flight, which just symbolize how is it that we became weak before our enemies? That's only the case, right? Except their rock, our God, had sold us or given us up, and the Lord Yahweh has shut them up. Another way, when you're going to shut them up, it goes into giving us up. Okay, if the Lord hadn't given us up, this wouldn't be the case. We wouldn't have to flee before our enemies. For their rock is not as our rock. The rock of the heathens, the nations, their gods, as you can see in all lowercase, is not as our rock. It's not as our God. Even our enemies themselves being judges, meaning they themselves know and acknowledge, right, that their gods are not like our God. Okay? For their vine is as the vine of Sodom and of the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are grapes of Gal. Their clusters are bitter. So here the context, the subject switches a bit, right? Going back into Israel's disobedience and their wicked ways. And here you can think of, I wonder if I cross-reference it'll show up. What's that in Jeremiah? Oh, well, shit. Even here's one, Isaiah 1 and 10. Hear the word of the Lord Yahweh, ye rulers of Sodom. This is speaking to Israel, by the way. Right? Give ear unto the law of our God, ye people of Gomorrah. Because they were following after those ways, right? Those wicked ways. Jeremiah 2 and 21. Yet I planted thee a noble vine, holy, a right seed. How then art thou turned into the degenerate plant of a strange vine unto me? See? So as it says here, their vine is of the vine of Sodom. It is corrupted. Okay. And of the fields of Gomorrah. So it's like, that's why in Isaiah 1 it mentioned that, right? It's you're going in the ways. Because imagine the vine representing people, right? And the people of Sodom, that are the people that are in the land, they grow a certain way. Okay. But the people of Israel are not meant to grow that way because they weren't planted there. They were planted a noble vine. Okay. But they have become so corrupt that there's almost like no difference between the vine of Israel and the vine of Sodom. It's like they were grown in there, right? Following after those perverse ways. As it says, their grapes are grapes of Gal, which is poison. Their clusters are bitter. Clusters of grapes, right? And that's symbolizing, because where do grapes come from? The vine. So what comes of them, okay, is bitter. And why? Because it is perverse, okay, and it is different. It is deviated from serving the Lord, which leads to what? A bitter outcome. Their wine is the poison of dragons and the cruel venom of asps. And what does wine come from? Grapes. And what is wine also likened onto? Philosophies, but also like a way of living. Okay, so this is going into like the path, right, in which Israel is gone in by corrupting themselves, is as the poison of dragons and the cruel venom of asps. Because that's basically how wicked and perverse Israel had become, or would become, as this song is bearing witness against them. Is not this laid up in store with me and sealed up among my treasures? So the Lord is saying like, do not I have this recorded? Don't I have have I not seen all this already? To me belongeth vengeance and recompense. Their foot shall slide in due time, for the day of their calamity is at hand, and the things that shall come upon them make haste. All right, and that is the calamities and the judgments for their wicked ways, right? Their foot is going to slide in due time. Eventually, they're going to slip. Eventually, that wickedness is going to catch up to them. And once again, right, though in context, is the Lord is speaking against Israel. This can also be applied to really even the wicked, right? Anybody that is transgressing or going astray from the Lord, because eventually this will be the case for them too, right? Eventually they're going to slip. Eventually they're going to fall, and they're going to get what's coming to them, right? Their calamity is quick, right? It's readily upon them. Verse 26, Slack 36, for the Lord shall judge his people and repent him or himself for his servants. Now, when you actually go into this word here for judge, it's not shapat. It's more, I think was it done? Or here they have dayan, which goes into like to govern, to judge, right? And when you look at some of these other translations, they use in the sense here of in the NKJV, right? The Lord would judge his people and have compassion on his servants, right? NLT, the Lord will give justice to his people, right? So overall, right, in the end, the Lord is going to have, execute justice, right, and judgment for his people and repent himself for his servants. And who did his servants start with? Those that are obedient to him, his remnant. When he seeth that their power is gone, because that's going to be, Israel disobeys the Lord, they go astray, eventually they slip and they fall all the way down, and now they're powerless. Okay. And eventually the Lord will see that and he'll have compassion, right? But as it says here, when he seeth that their power is gone and there is none shut up or left, there's no one left. He shall say, where is their God, or where are their gods, their rock in whom they trusted? Where are those idols? Similar to what it says in Judges, go and call on those gods and let them deliver you. What happened to them? Oh, you're powerless now? The gods you ran to when I gave you everything, where are they? Which did eat the fat of their sacrifices, right? Because you sacrificed onto them and drank the wine of their drink offerings. You offered drink offerings onto them. So where are they? Let them rise up and help you and be your protection. See now that I, even I, am he, and there is no God with me. I kill and I make alive. See, because now you're going to know you're powerless. All those idols you went and served, they're not here anymore. They're not here to protect you. So now understand that there is no God. There's nobody else but me. Okay, I kill and I make alive. I wound and I heal. Blessings, curses, life, death, I do it all. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. For I lift up my hand to heaven and say, I live forever. Because the Lord ain't going, he can't go any higher than himself. Verse 41, for I whet my glittering sword, and mine hand take hold on or if I whet my glittering sword, which is to sharpen his glittering sword. And ultimately, right, what is the Lord's glittering sword? The missiles, right? In this time, at least. Okay. And mine hand take hold on judgment, so that as the Lord is ready to execute judgment, I will render vengeance to mine enemies and will reward them that hate me. And the Lord said this, and we've seen examples of the Lord rendering vengeance onto his enemies. But now in this final judgment, we're going to see what the Lord actually means in the fullness of rendering vengeance to his enemies and rewarding them that hate him. And who are the enemies of the Lord? Esau, Edom, these nations, and these wicked Israelites. Okay, and we're going to witness that. I will make mine arrows drunk with blood. Like we read a couple verses above, right, about the arrows. Okay, so in terms of the ultimate judgment, right, when the Lord, like we read up above, taking vengeance upon his enemies, what are those arrows going to be? Those missiles, right, the weapons of his indignation. So as he says, I will make mine arrows drunk with blood, meaning they're going to destroy, and my sword shall devour flesh, synonymous with the arrows, because they're means by which the Lord brings judgment. And in this time, it's going to be through those fiery, destructive means. So it shall devour flesh, and that with the blood of the slain. So it's going to devour flesh along with their blood of the slain, which just symbolizes death and destruction of the captives from the beginning of the revenges upon the enemy. And when you go into those words, it means from the head, the beginning, right, Ra'ash, of the revenges, which goes into their I believe is the higher ups. Let's go into that. Yeah, a leader, commander. So when you actually read this, in a different translation, it makes a bit more sense. Right, in the NKJV, I will make my arrows drunk with blood, and my sword shall devour flesh with the blood of the slain and the captives from the heads of the leaders of the enemy. Rejoice, O ye nations, with his people, which this is this is referring to Israelites. Okay, O ye nations, this nations is referring to Israelites of the different tribes. Okay, and when you actually go into that, as you see the with, which is italicized, okay, that is put in there as they were translating to make it, to at least in their minds, to make the meaning make more sense. Okay, but there's no actual Hebrew word in there. Like when you look it up here, with, you see that in parentheses, there's no Hebrew equivalent for it. Okay, and then I believe even the Apostle Ramlab did a video not too long ago on that, right, breaking that down. But when you read it as it is in the Hebrew, there is no with. So in the Hebrew, it really would read, "Rejoice, O ye nations, his people," which is referring to Israel. But even if you wanted to read it as "with his people," it's still talking about Israel. Okay. For he will avenge the blood of his servants and will render vengeance to his adversaries. So it wouldn't make sense if this was talking about the other nations, because they are our adversaries. So why should they rejoice with us when the Lord is about to avenge our blood and render vengeance upon them? That wouldn't make sense. We are the ones who are going to rejoice because the Lord is going to take vengeance on his adversaries, which are our adversaries, and will be merciful unto his land and to his people. Who are they? Israel. And Moses came and spake all the words of this song in the ears of the people, he and Hoshea the son of Nun, being Joshua. And Moses made an end of speaking all these words to all Israel. And he said unto them, set your hearts unto all the words which I testify among you this day. So store this in a good place in your mind. Really ponder upon it, which ye shall command your children to observe to do all the words of this law. For it is not a vain thing for you, because it is your life. So don't take this lightly. This isn't a light thing. This is life and death, basically. Right? NLT, these instructions are not empty words. They are your life. And through these instructions, ye shall prolong your days in the land. This is how you continue to remain in the land, whither ye go over Jordan to possess it. And the Lord spake unto Moses that selfsame day, saying, get thee up into this mountain Abarim, unto Mount Nebo, which is in the land of Moab, that is over against Jericho, and behold the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Israel for a possession. So take a good look at it, and die in the mount whither thou goest up, and be gathered unto thy fathers. And that's another way of saying you're going to die. You're going to join your forefathers. As Aaron thy brother died in Mount Hor, and was gathered unto his people. Because he trespassed against me among the children of Israel at the waters of Meribah Kadesh, in the wilderness of Zin, because he sanctified me not in the midst of the children of Israel. Because the Lord told him, talk to the rock, and it'll bring forth water. But they were so angry and fed up with Israel that Moses struck the rock, I think twice. And the Lord was not upset. He was not happy with that, because it was going to give glory to the Lord, right? Having spoken to the rock, it was more miraculous. But they didn't do it as the Lord said, and that was a punishment for it. Verse 52, yet thou shalt see the land before thee, but thou shalt not go thither onto the land which I give to the children of Israel. So you're not going to go there, but you'll see it. And that brings us to the end of the book of Deuteronomy, the 32nd chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.